My name is Maryn Boess. I am the founder, and I like to say chief magic maker of GrantsMagicU. GrantsMagicU was founded in October of 2015 as the continuation of my training work and bringing forward the curriculum of grants trainings that I had developed years before and had been sharing primarily in person, but now translating it into an online video and distance formats. You'd mentioned before we started that so many people that you were talking to sort of fell into it by accident, and that was certainly true for me. I had this goes way, way back, and I will say it was 1984. So wow. And I had just won a very hard-fought new position in the city of Phoenix, transferring from the police department where I was part of the community crime prevention program over to the human services arm of, or the planning arm of the human services department. And nobody had said a word about grants. Grants never came up. I didn't know what grants were, never heard of them at all. But I was day 3 on that job. And as I said, it was a very hard fought position. My boss's boss didn't think I was the best candidate. Nonetheless, there I was. And so when she marched into my office 3 days into the job and dropped a stack of papers on the corner of my desk, she said, "Here's an RFP. It's due in 3 days. See what you can do with it." And she marched out. And of course, I said, "No problem. I've got this," because, I had to prove. It's like, I didn't know what an RFP was. I did not. I did not know that. And there was never any inkling that any of this was going to be part of the work that I was doing in this new position. So not knowing any better, I said, well, let me take a look at this. It was a federal RFP. But I read it as, oh, they're giving me clear instructions for putting together a plan for doing something cool, and they will give us money to do it. So I said, I can do that. And I actually built a small program around my experience in working with community crime prevention, I forget exactly, it was a sort of a home security program for for seniors who were low-income seniors, to help them feel more secure in their homes. And lo and behold, it was funded, a grand total of $8,000. And I sort of instantly became grants girl for the City of Phoenix Human Services Department. That's how that goes. You get the one, it's like, oh, she's got the magic touch. She's grants girl now. So from going from zero knowledge, not even knowing what's an RFP, to, oh, I got the first one, I guess I know what I'm doing, to over the course of the years I was with the city, many, many proposals for multiple millions of dollars. So it was a fast track for sure. But I had been a writer all my life, but that wasn't going to be part of the work that I had done there. So it was almost a fluke that that connection was made so early on. So, but ultimately, I came to really love the idea that something that I enjoyed doing and was really skilled at, writing, literally had been writing, had been a freelance writer for years before I got this work, could actually turn into services that brought a tremendous amount of value and good to a vulnerable community, was a real eye opener for me. And I was hooked. Well, long and windy road. I got first I want to say I was extremely fortunate, did not know how lucky I was that in the at this my City of Phoenix position, it was really all about planning. So I just assumed grants writing is really all about planning, and I carried that forward with me all the way through. And I understand that is not always the way people's career path begins. So with that strong foundation of planning beneath me, that carried forward. But ultimately, after I think 3 or 4 years, I said, I'm not really, I wasn't happy working inside the institutional structure, the bureaucracy. And so I met a woman who was really excited about our working together as independent grant writers, and we set up a business, and lo and behold, my career as an independent grants consultant and program planner was born. um, and that lasted for a good number of years, and primarily working with federal and government programs because that was a skill set I had. I didn't think of it as a skill set, but apparently not everybody was successful, and I was. So again, that kind of magic touch that it's like, I don't know what that magic touch is all about. Um, but it was the planning. As much as anything, I was brought on board to help plan the programs, even convene large planning sessions with multiple agencies and large collaborative efforts to put the plan together that was ultimately going to be communicated in the proposal. So again, I was really spoiled without realizing it that that was the context for the work that I was doing, not just go out and get us a grant and write us the proposal, Maryn, but to be integral to participating in, supporting, and even leading in some respects the planning process too. Well, I left grant writing. I have not been an active grant writer for a long time. Certainly the experience of what it meant to be an in the trenches grant writer, since my current position has been training, if you will, which is almost more, I can teach the mechanics of how to do it, but lots of people can do that. But I can also inspire and motivate. And so that's a big part of what I bring to it as well. And fast forwarding to 2006, so I had the, deep in the trenches experience of what it's like, the challenges, the stresses, the strains, it's deadline, it's a federal grant, it's crazy making, all of that, both from a staff side and the side of being an independent consultant managing numerous projects all at the same time. But in 2006, I had the opportunity to become a grant maker. And it was that combination, it was being able to round that experience out, to share from what I call that 3D perspective that I think has given me my unique value proposition in the grants training field. And I had worked directly with grant makers as a peer for quite a long time. I created, I believe it was the first regional grants database in the country. The foundation directory online had just come on board. I was raised in the era of you have to go to the library and plow through, thousands of pages of printed directories to find your potential grant makers. When the online possibilities came on board, I quickly created a regional database for my home state of Arizona. And so I was on a peer-to-peer level with the grant makers in that regard. So I had no fear of grant makers, none at all. But becoming one and having that as the platform from which I could also share and teach was really transformative for my career as a grants trainer. So the dual perspective of here's what it's like when you're the one in the trenches trying to crank that proposal out, get it out of the door on time, and here's what it's like when you're the one who has an obligation to invest wisely and well, and a lot of stresses, strains, and struggles around making that happen as well from the grant making side. Wow. I'm living it right now, having just wrapped up our 10-week big course called the Ultimate Grant Proposal Blueprint. When I hear back from students with an email that basically starts with, oh my G, whatever, OMG, and probably multiple exclamation marks. I didn't know this was possible. I came to the course as a total newbie. I didn't know anything at all, but oh my gosh, we just got notification that we just got our first grant. And it's not a big one, but look at all the great, here's what it's going to do. And all the kiddos that we serve are going to be, their lives are going to be so changed by this. And I can just feel that this is just the start of it. I'm so excited. I'm so motivated, and I can't wait to get out there and do it again. That's the best part of my work. Not just the getting the grant, but the I'm so excited. I didn't know I could do it. I can't wait to get out and do it again part. So that's the part that really lights me up. If it's somebody who doesn't know anything at all about grants, the first thing they say is, oh gosh, that's a great skill. Everybody should know about grants. And then I say, well, and then I try to talk, I say, well, you know, the thing that I love about what I do isn't teaching people what buttons to push and what levers to pull, because there's so much more to it than that. But then their eyes glaze over. They're not in grants world, and it just doesn't, you know, they just think it's about, you know, a credit application, right? Applying for a loan. It's not, of course, but for the folks that are engaged in the GrantsMagicU community, I think it is always surprising, I think, for new grant writers to understand how much more than writing is involved. We've got one course we teach. It's a freebie. We've got several freebies. It's called Your Grant Success Path, and it lays out the 10 basic steps that are part of the grant success path. And it's a looping path, and only one of them has to do with writing the proposal. You know, the others have to do with everything else that it takes to create a healthy, sustainable, and successful grant seeking process in the organization. And that comes as a surprise, I know, to lots of folks that just want to go get the grant. And I hear that all the time. It's like, basically, Maryn, you know, I don't want all this nonsense. Just point me in the right. Where's my grant for this specific thing, right? People don't want to hear that it's a lot more than that, but it's not rocket science either. And that's the other thing that I want people to really understand. It's a very doable skill set. And the more you understand about the context, grants world, the ecosystem, the more you'll, you know, the more skillfully and confidently you'll be able to navigate the tools and the tactics of getting there. You know, so much of how people relate to their experience as a grant writer has to do with the culture and the values and the dynamics of the organization they're working with. One thing that I can suggest is that if you feel that grant writing and grant seeking is something that really calls you forward, that you really are good at, that you really have something to contribute, but you find that you're just constantly struggling in your current work environment, consider a change. Not all organizations by any means are evolved enough to really provide the right kind of support for a skilled grant writer to do well for the organization. And that's just a very big blanket statement. But there's only so much you can do. The number one thing I would say is use your voice in your current organization, speak up, say what you're seeing, talk about what else is possible, and see if you can help to move the dial. If that doesn't prove fruitful, for your own sake, consider moving on. That's pretty much what I can say, because an organization with a really entrenched culture that doesn't support healthy, sustainable grant seeking, yeah, it's not a healthy, sustainable place for you as you're building your career. There are lots of other organizations that would love to have your skills and your enthusiasm and your passion to support their mission work in the community.